Hey, what's up, everybody? Dr. Ray, and we are talking about security recommendations for 2022. I do this every summer. I talk about updates, things that have changed, and we are going to get started. Are you ready to talk about the security updates that will help you sleep well at night? You ready? All right, let's start with our browser. So what browser am I using this year? What do I recommend you use? So my browser that I use two browsers and I recommend both to you. So the first browser that I use, my main browser, is Firefox. I love Firefox. It's open source, very secure browser, great. Next browser, it seems like Chrome, which is the next browser. I do use Chrome a bit, and Chrome has the largest market share. More people use Chrome than any other browser right now. So the fact that you're probably already using it, since so many people are, okay, continue to. It's a great browser. I personally like Firefox, but Firefox, Chrome, I put about pretty even there. I just like that open sourceness of Firefox. All right. Most secure browser, Tor, hands down. Tor is an onion browser. It was created for the Department of Defense for security. It's a great browser to use when you're like in public Wi-Fi, at a hotel, anything like that, and you want to access the web. While you're using Tor, no one else is going to be able to see what you're doing. It's a great website for that. It doesn't track anything, doesn't keep any records of what you've done on it. So it's a great website for that. The downfall of Tor, it's such a secure browser. You're like, why wouldn't you use this 24/7? The reason you don't use it 24/7 is because it's so secure. A lot of websites are slow when running it. And B, the other issue is that it breaks a lot of sites. Like you might not actually be able to access your banking site when you're using Tor. So that's kind of one of the problems with it, is that it does break sites. You got to be careful when you're using it. You kind of got to test and know what's going to work. All right, now let's get into mobile browser, because we all use our phones and we're on mobile browsers like 24/7, right? So for mobile browser, my number one recommended browser is called Firefox Focus. Firefox Focus is a mobile browser that does not track you or leave any information on your phone. It's the only mobile browser that I use. I don't use Safari, I don't use Chrome, I don't use Firefox. I use Firefox Focus. Firefox Focus is great. It really just doesn't track anything, and it's what I use on my phone 24/7. If you're also looking for that Tor type browser on your phone, there is an Onion browser that you can download. It's called Onion browser that you can download, and it does use the Tor network. So on your mobile device, mobile website, super secure, Tor browser. All right, now when you have these browsers, well, besides Tor and not your mobile, because you can't install add-ons on the mobile version of Firefox Focus, and you don't need to because it's already not tracking you. I like to install add-ons onto my browsers. And the reason that you do this is because it adds an additional layer of security. So for example, in Firefox and Chrome, I install something called uBlock Origin. The reason I install this is it stops all like scripts from tracking you, stops things like ads and annoying things like that, but really anything that's going to track you on your browser. I also recommend HTTPS everywhere, unless you're using private Windows, where it's probably already going to push every website to HTTPS. But if you don't have that, download HTTPS and install that as an add-on onto your browser. All right, done with browsers. I got through it quick. My goal was to get through browsers pretty quick because they were kind of the longest thing. All right, next thing, search engines. Still using DuckDuckGo. I use DuckDuckGo probably 95% of the time. The other 5% I use Google because I need like Google Scholar or something like that. But I use DuckDuckGo for everything. It is not tracking you, unlike Google or another browser that you might want to use. I use DuckDuckGo on both PC and mobile device. All right, email. Now I have my work email, which is Outlook. I've got a Gmail account that I use for various things. But if you want secure private email that is not attached to you in any way, Proton Mail. Proton Mail is 100% anonymous, not tracking you in any way, very secure private email. That's a free version, is Proton Mail, and that's what I recommend. All right. VPN, antivirus, malware, firewall. Those are all very different things, but they can be all in one. So first thing is VPN. Now, VPN means virtual private network. And basically what that means, so I said like you can use Tor browser and no one can track what you're doing, right? Well, um, the issue is, let's say you want to just use regular Chrome or Firefox and don't want to be tracked, or you want to like access a piece of software that you don't want your internet search provider knowing about, or like your bank breaks on Tor, but you're in like a hotel and you need to access your bank account. What do? Voila, we got VPN. That's when we use a VPN. So there are many different VPNs out there. Honestly, they're for the home user, they're all pretty much all the, if you search like top 10 VPNs, all of those are pretty good for the home user. Those of you into doing like some crazy stuff, you might need some different features. For the average home user, even someone running a small business or anything like that, you're good. You don't just get a VPN and you're probably going to be pretty good. I personally use CyberGhost, and that's because I bought a lifetime subscription for like $30 several years ago. So I'm using CyberGhost. My number one recommended, if I was going back and purchasing everything right now, would be Norton VPN. It's a great VPN. And the great thing I like about Norton is that it actually includes antivirus, malware, and firewall all in one. So you get everything with Norton. And also has like child protection, mobile protection. It's got everything all in one. So it's kind of like my number one pick, and it's very highly rated. It does a really good job. Okay, so then we get to antivirus. I personally use Windows Defender. I think Windows Defender is fine. If you're a competent computer user, Windows Defender is going to be more than enough for you. Like, you're careful. You're not like clicking like a link that is spam in your email and stuff like that. Windows Defender comes for free on your Windows machine. Perfect. Those of you who are Windows users and don't want to use Windows Defender, or you want to use something else, or you're on a Mac, Norton. Just get Norton. All right. Malware, adware. I use Malwarebytes. I scan my machine with Malwarebytes every week, every few weeks. If I think something's up my wife's computer, I scan a little more because her and the kids get things on there. Malwarebytes, there's a free version that you can use to scan and clear malware out. Again, if you're using Norton, it's just going to do it for you. Firewall. I use Windows Firewall. Windows Firewall is more than fine. Good enough for most home users. If you do need an additional firewall, a free one, I really do like Zone Alarm. I think it's great. It allows you to really monitor what's going in and out of your web traffic. I prefer Zone Alarm. But again, the all-in-one, Norton. And just a tip here, if you're doing anything super important, and you are at a hotel, and if you're accessing anything personal, like even logging into your email, and you're at Starbucks, McDonald's, a hotel, anywhere, please make sure you're using a VPN. Just make sure you got a VPN on. You can use VPNs on your phone. You can use them on your computer. Please just turn on a VPN when you're accessing, especially like bank or personal records. Just turn on VPN, then access it. That way you're not going to be tracked, or someone that's broke into the hotel's Wi-Fi is not monitoring what you're doing. They're not going to see it. The VPN is going to hide you. All right, next. Kid tracker. What am I using to track my kids? Because I got 3 little kids and I got like track them somehow. We're using the Verizon Gizmo Watch. I did a great review on YouTube on it. You check it out, but the Gizmo Watch is what I recommend for kids for tracking. It's $100, which is pretty cheap. $10, well, really like 14 a month when you add in the expensive, but it's like 14 bucks a month per watch. And that allows you to call your kid to call you, and you to track your kid, and a bunch of other real good security things. But it's what I really like because they can call, I can call, and I can track. So there's a bunch of good things I like about it. It's one of the reasons we got it for our kid, but it's been working out really well. We've had it since January, so we're looking at like 6 months now that we've had Verizon Gizmo Watch. We like it. It's good. Check out my review on it. All right, DNS. For those of you who aren't familiar with DNS, DNS is basically like you're using a DNS every time you access the internet. Imagine like if you picture like an old like 50s movie where like you make a phone call and like you call and an operator's like plugging you into like the next person. That's kind of what like a DNS does, but like usually it's just your internet service provider is providing it. But the DNS server that your internet service provider provides you is usually pretty slow and crummy, and it's usually not very secure. So there are a bunch of really good free DNS servers out there. OpenDNS is one that I like. There's also Cloudflare. There's a bunch of good free DNS servers. If you just want to plug one into your Wi-Fi unit, super easy to do. Usually you log into your Wi-Fi, enter a DNS server in. Any home user can do it. It's very simple, and you'll be connected to a new DNS server. I personally am using something called Next DNS. Next DNS. It's $20 a year, so there's a price. But for the price, I do get a lot of things. So, like for example, it's quick, which allows me quicker access to websites, but I can also do a lot of things in NextDNS. I did a review on that in video, check it out, but it allows me to block ads. It allows me to track what my kids and anyone accessing my Wi-Fi is doing. It allows me to block users. It allows me to have parental controls, block certain apps or games. I'm not blocking any games, but I could block games if I wanted to. I could block specific games. I could block specific websites. And it basically does all that for me for $20 a year. So well worth it for what it gets, but I do recommend a DNS server at home for everyone. All right, some general tips on passwords. Make sure that you have all of your important passwords should have two-factor authentication. Pretty much you're gonna notice that all of your banks now, even like your bills, like who's logging it? So who's logging into my cable bill and for what reason? Like if you want to go pay it, I'll give everyone the password and log into my cable bill so they can go in and pay it for me. Like you're welcome to do that, but like they require two-factor authentication. I'm glad when my bank does it. I'm glad when my credit cards do it or my mortgage. I don't care too much that like my McDonald's account, which I don't think I have one, but like all those kind of websites are starting to do it and like no one's breaking into that. So not super important. Next piece of advice on passwords, please write down all your passwords on paper. Don't save them somewhere, especially like if you save them on your computer, then your computer dies. Just write them on paper. I've always got like paper in front of me with like notes and stuff. Always write down all your passwords. I have like a sheet that's just like my passwords. Write them down. Next thing, make sure you password protect your PC. So like when you walk away and it goes to sleep and you get back in or someone turns it on for the day, like need a password. Your phone should be locked, watch, and make sure the biggest thing here is make sure your Wi-Fi is encrypted so that someone needs a passcode to actually get into it. All right, super important. And the final thing I want to talk about this year, and I know a lot of the stuff is new that I haven't had in previous years, is best cloud storage and secure cloud storage. Because a lot of us, like I know all my files are now in the cloud. Like I literally use the cloud for everything. And a lot of us are because if my computer dies, I can just switch computers and get access to everything instantaneously. I can access it on my phone and everywhere, and it's super useful. I love it. All right, so best cloud storage. So if you really care about security, if security is your number one focus, Sync, pCloud, iDrive are my top three choices for security. And you would want to compare prices and what you actually personally need. But if you're looking for space in the cloud that's very secure, like for work stuff, Sync, pCloud, iDrive. Now, if you're just a home user, which I'm assuming most of you are if you're watching this, that may not be super important to you. So what I do recommend is Microsoft's OneDrive. I think it's pretty darn good. It's pretty close to those other ones I mentioned. And most people have access to OneDrive or use OneDrive already. It's what you get with Office 365. It's what I use for work and stuff like that. But it's actually very good. Microsoft's done an excellent job with OneDrive. And then finally, a lot of you are probably using Google Drive, and Google Drive is not on the same caliber as those other ones that I mentioned, but it is pretty good. So feel pretty confident using Google Drive to save stuff. I wouldn't save like my financial information in Google Drive, but anything else is probably pretty good there. And it's pretty secure and pretty safe. So for those of you using Google Drive, yeah, feel pretty confident. It's pretty good. A big one that I see a lot of people want to use is Dropbox. And Dropbox, on paper, it looks really good, but there's been some issues with like passwords being stolen and stuff like that, and some pretty big issues, in my opinion, that have me a little concerned. I mean, Dropbox is fine. I do use it for certain things, but I just for really secure stuff, I prefer one of the other services. So I'll just leave it at that. All right, those are my security recommendations for 2022. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you have any more, please add them. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Later all.